Hey, what's going on? So, like I was saying, the number 12, kind of a big deal. And in here, I just want to kind of just emphasize some of the importance of the number 12 in religion and just highlight some of where that number really pops up in prominent ways. But recall, it's kind of all based, or at least I'd argue that it's all kind of based on our solar system and why that number 12 influences our calendar and how we tell time. And that's kind of where we get back to this. Where we ended the last video off with on astrology. So it's sort of a religion, but it's really explicitly bases those 12 zodiac signs, which kind of form the foundation of it, along as related back to sort of those 12 lunar cycles in a year, where the Earth is moving about 30-degree increments in each of those cycles around the sun. So that's like a really clear connection of a religion to that, to a month in our solar system, and that number 12. But you see that number 12 in all kinds of other religions, and probably the first one that you see it back to in history is arguably the Hebrew scriptures. I mean, you might argue Greek mythology, but we'll get to that next. But in the Hebrew scriptures, you have Abraham. So he was promised by God that he was gonna be the father of a great nation, and he must have been a little bit confused about that because he only ended up having two sons. But he was told his firstborn son, Ishmael, was going to be the father of 12 princes. And we see later in scripture the names of his 12 sons shown. But the promise was actually more directed to his son, Isaac, who had a son, Jacob, who ended up having 12 sons, which formed the basis of the 12 tribes of Israel, where Jacob was also known as Israel. So those 12 sons were through four women, and they start off with Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. So that's 12. And each of these sons had very long lineages, and they were even allotted 12 different regions. But this gets a little bit tricky because that one tribe of Levi, they were the priests, and they didn't actually have any land ascribed to them. They were just kind of supposed to be the priest for everyone and worry about the temple. So you'd think, well, okay, why don't they just ascribe just 11 pieces of land then, right? But they couldn't do that because clearly the number 12 was very important to them to hold that number. So Joseph actually had two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and instead of Joseph getting one plot of land, each of his sons were given one, and each of those sons were specifically blessed by Jacob too. So in a sense, you kind of have 13 tribes, but there's only 12 of them are ever named, or you're only going to see 12 of them on a map, which really goes to show the importance that the Hebrew scriptures have just on this number 12. Like it couldn't be 11, and it actually, the fact that there's sort of 13 tribes actually kind of connects back to what we were talking about with these lunar cycles around of the Earth, as the Earth goes around the sun, because we only see from our perspective 12, but in actuality the moon is orbiting the Earth 13 times as it goes around. We just, from our perspective, it just looks like there's 12 of them. So there's kind of an odd connection there between there's actually 13 lunar orbits, but only 12 lunar cycles. But where else do you see this number 12 pop up in the Hebrew scriptures? Let me know if you want to comment. I'd be interested to see. But some that come off the top of my head include King Solomon. He appointed 12 governors, or the high priests in the temple. They had this breastplate that had 12 stones in it, or the priest would lay out 12 pieces of bread in the tabernacle, and you've probably seen it elsewhere. But you also see it in the New Testament of the early writings of Christianity in the 12 disciples. And you might think, oh, it's just a coincidence, Jesus just happened to pick 12 followers. But then you consider that they sort of lost one of them, right? Because Judas ended up hanging himself. And you'd think if 12 was just a coincidence, they'd go, all right, we're down to 11, but they couldn't be content with 11. They had to pick another person. The disciples picked Matthias to take Judas's place because they had to have 12. So it's like, yeah, that number 12 is not a coincidence. And the book of Matthew actually further elucidates why that's the case, because it talks about Jesus actually just explicitly telling the disciples that they were going to rule over the 12 tribes of Israel in the future kingdom. So there's a really clear link between, yeah, we got 12 disciples because there was 12 tribes, and you're each going to rule over one of them. And you see it further in the book of Revelation, in the New Testament writings, in that in several places actually. When it talks about this new Jerusalem, it's like this new city, and it's got these gates, 12 different gates, and each of those gates has inscribed one of the names of the 12 tribes. And then underneath those gates, under the walls, is this the foundation, and the foundation has these 12 foundations. Under these 12 gates have the name of the 12 apostles. So there's this clear link there between the two. Also, there's the tree of life in the book of Revelation, has 12 fruits, each fruit for a given month, and explicitly ties that number 12 to months there. So here we have like a clear connection between, like, this number 12 is based on these 12 lunar cycles that we see in our solar system. So you can see that that number 12 is really prominent throughout both the Hebrew scripture of Judaism and the New Testament of Christianity, but it's also prominent in Greek mythology, as I alluded to earlier. And you can just kind of start, this kind of Greek mythology sort of starts off with these 12 titans, and there were 6 brothers and 6 sisters. And these, if you're familiar with the mythology, you know that these titans were taken over by the 12 Olympians led by Zeus. So, and his brothers and sisters. So again, we got, like, there's really like 13 of them, but you only canonically, and there's 12 Olympians. So it's kind of like the same thing that we saw with the Old and New Testament, with there's 13 tribes or 13 apostles, but they only like speak of 12 of them at a time. And you can see that sort of this, like, it's also similar in the sense that there's like this foundation of 12 titans, just like there's this foundation of 12 tribes, and then there's these 12 Olympians, just like there's like these 12 disciples that kind of follow them up, less ancient. So that's a kind of an interesting similarity you see, but you see that core to all that is the number 12. But I'd be curious to know, like, if you see this number 12 in other religions as well. Those are the ones that kind of popped out at me. But if you do, just let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to hear about that. But the number 12 is also very prominent in music, which I'd like to talk about next. So if you want to go ahead and check that out, please do. But otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And until next time, take care.